What am I even supposed to say about this game? Even if you're not into Pokemon, this video is going to be really interesting because Pokemon Legends Z-A is the laziest AAA game I have ever seen. The best word to be able to describe it is transactional, because that's what the experience feels like. The game has some high points, we'll talk about that, but they phoned it in so hard, knowing that their audience would not only buy it, but stand around and defend it. We're talking about a $70 game that has copy-pasted assets, half-finished animations, talking animations with no voice acting for some odd reason. I don't know why anybody greenlit that. The game is just so lifeless. And as somebody who hasn't played these games since Black and White, what happened to the monster designs? The amount of money that people have invested into this franchise just makes it all the more disgusting. It's not what this game specifically is, it's about how much they're charging for it and what this franchise actually should be, the kind of games that they should be making. You know, I grew up on Pokemon. I loved it when I was a kid. You know, as proof, I got them around here somewhere. Here you go. Yeah. I have gym badges from when I was a little kid and I used to play in local card shops. These things are old as all hell. I loved it. And I'm so happy that that little kid never grew up to see what this franchise turned into. This is the most popular media franchise in the history of Earth. They make more money than 145 countries do their GDP. By all accounts, these should be the best games ever made, and there's no challenger whatsoever. But that's just not what these games are. And it goes to show that even when these companies are successful, even when you give them your support, even when you give them your money, the minimum viable product is still the target. So today I want to talk about my experience playing Pokemon Legends Z-A. I want to talk about the depths of greed they reach that I didn't even think were possible, and showcase how indie games and even their own games are making these games look foolish. I want to talk about how little time Pokemon has left, because the average age of their audience is 32 years old. That's not good. But before that, a word from today's sponsor, and this one's a little bit of a different one. It's from D-Brand and their Kill Switch case for the Switch 2. I absolutely love this thing. I have a really bad track record when it comes to handhelds. This case is insanely form factor. It feels like the entire thing just came out of the box this way. The protective shell, the impact casing actually lets you store games inside of it. The grips on the side feel absolutely fantastic. What I love is that it doesn't make the thing feel bulky. And that's what a lot of other cases do. I cannot recommend this thing enough. The Joy-Con detachment issue that popped up earlier on, fixed. Every affected customer has already been sent a free replacement, and this newest batch is their best version yet, and it's in stock and shipping immediately. It's got ergonomic grips that feel absolutely comfortable in the hands, works perfectly with the kickstand and dock, and the transparent cover doubles as a display for your game collection, which is a nice touch. So if you were waiting for these to come back, it's available now. Hit the link in the description or the pinned comment and grab yours today. Pokemon meant a lot to me. I collected the cards, played in tournaments, woke up early to watch the anime before school. I still remember sitting in the backseat of my mom's car just after she got off work, waiting for the streetlights to pass so I could get another look at the screen of my Game Boy for just a second. Pokemon was how I made friends. It was genius marketing on the side of these guys. 2 versions of the same game, exclusive Pokemon in each, evolutions that only happened through trading. It forced you to go out and meet people, and for me, it worked. Without Pokemon, I probably wouldn't have evolved into the social butterfly I am today, and honestly, we probably wouldn't even be talking right now, but Pokemon also opened the door to the rest of the genre for me. It led me to games like Golden Sun, Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, Grandia 2, games that showed me what RPGs could be, and as I played those games, I drifted away from Pokemon. You could say that it was just me growing up, but that's not really true, because I didn't stop liking Pokemon. I stopped because those games were giving me something that Pokemon never did. They kept evolving. More customization, more unique art direction, deeper combat systems, stronger narratives, while Pokemon just stayed the exact same. Now here I am all these years later watching the same franchise that I grew up with turn into a social media war zone. Every single time somebody tries to criticize the game, a half a dozen self-appointed defenders come out swinging, calling it grifting, misinformation, or some coordinated smear campaign against the Pokemon Company. It's just so stupid. Meanwhile, the games journalists that have been screaming about toxic fandoms are the ones that are definitionally grifting, pumping out headlines like, "It's official, Pokemon beats Digimon," then 5 days later posting, "Digimon Time Strangers officially beats Pokemon." It's embarrassing. So I decided to cut through all the noise and just play the game myself. The best word that I can use to describe this game is transactional. It's just going through the motions. It's about as entertaining as walking up to a cash register and getting checked out, which makes a lot of sense because that's the only thing that Nintendo is actually interested in. The lack of voice acting in this game is what really does it in. This is so bad. They should just use static images. You have full cinematic scenes, lips moving, dramatic gestures, not a single spoken word. You hear abilities that are going off, footsteps echoing, and other sound effects, everything other than the characters themselves. It is so jarring. It's so awkward, and it kills any tension the story's trying to build or emotion that they're trying to convey, and we know why it's like this. Voice acting costs money, it takes time, it requires effort, and those are three things that Nintendo refuses to give this franchise. I think the world of this game is a perfect reflection of its creators. Lifeless, bland, corporate. Exploration feels pointless. It's either empty corridors or weird scaffolding sections that are pretending to be platforming. You can't even climb something that is knee-high. Instead, you're dodge rolling off of ledges, which I swear they're trying to emulate from Elden Ring, but they just butchered it in the process. The platforms are tiny, the movement is clunky, and everything just feels wrong. The city itself, what were you guys thinking? You have to use the map, otherwise you're going to get lost instantly because everything looks the same. It's the same streets, the same shops, the same windows, the same buildings, copy and pasted across the entire thing. It's a city with about as much identity as the repetitive fat guy NPC you keep popping into alleyways. And for a place that's supposed to be inspired by Paris, there is none of that blend of old and new architecture. Just everything blends together. None of that charm and contrast. It's just a sterile grid of assets dropped into place by a team that is clearly over it. Where is the art direction in this game? Is it in the room with us? It doesn't even reflect its own franchise anymore. There's no consistency with the anime, no tie-in with the trading cards, no visually distinct language. It's just beige and gray. It's here's a video game, I guess. That's the best way for me to be able to describe it. It's so generic looking, especially when you compare it to some of the other anime-inspired games that we've seen over the years, like the Tales games, Xenoblade Chronicles, Digimon Time Strangers as an example. Indie games are putting way more effort into their visual expression. Hades, Hollow Knight, Cassette Vs, all these things ooze with personality. Legend Z-A looks like it was made in a corporate lab. Now, I will give them this. I do actually like the direction they're going in with the new battle system. It's faster, more dynamic. It reminds me a lot of Power World. You can chain moves together. You actually have to think about move speed and range. It feels pretty good, and I really like the touch of being able to use AoE attacks on groups of monsters when you're farming. The mega battles, those are cool in concept, but the entire thing just feels half-finished. You're supposed to dodge attacks, pick up orbs, reposition, and then time your mega evolution, but the whole thing just collapses under its own controls. You have to exit the targeting and skills menu so that you can dodge, which turns every single fight into this clumsy dance of just running around in circles while your Pokemon does nothing and you just struggle to retarget the enemy. There are just so many unfinished ideas here, and they feel like they're painted over the entire game, and it just makes the entire experience feel like it's indifferent. Like there's just a lack of care, and that lack of care is a slap in the face for anybody who has been supporting this franchise for decades. Is Legend Z-A the worst game that I've ever played? No, but given what Pokemon is, what it represents, and how much money it makes, it might be the most insulting. I don't even think this is just laziness. I feel like it's more exploitation than anything else. Like they're just trying to squeeze every last drop from the fans that are still showing up no matter what. You know, in 2024 alone, the Pokemon Company grossed over $12 billion. Lifetime, over $100 billion. They are the most profitable media franchise in history, and according to leaks from a former Nintendo employee, Legend Z-A had a budget of just $13 million. 13. For context, that is what most indie AA productions use, and this is the flagship entry for the biggest entertainment property on planet Earth. Now, if you guys have watched this channel for any length of time, you guys already know that I want these studios to spend less money, that photorealism, hair physics, and marketing budgets do not make better games. But this, guys, this is just neglect. They're not saving money because they're smart. Well, I mean, they are because they know that people are still going to keep buying the stuff anyway, but they're saving money because they don't care. And that's what makes it so disgusting. It's just the complete absence of respect for the audience that made them. I mean, it's not like spending money would magically fix Pokemon's problems. I understand that. It definitely wouldn't, but it would at least show they cared enough to try. We live in a time in which games like Expedition 33, a debut project from a small studio, cost, in the words of Sandfall's CEO, less than Mirror's Edge, which means that's somewhere between $15 and $25 million, and that game was stunning. So I don't care what anybody says. Expedition 33 is one of the best games that I've played in the last decade. It stands shoulder to shoulder with games like Elden Ring, Black Myth Wukong, and Baldur's Gate 3 in terms of impact, but That game redefined turn-based combat for the modern era. Its music, story, its art direction, all distinct, cohesive, and unforgettable. That's what happens when a team actually gives a damn about what they're making. The money doesn't really matter in that case. From where I'm standing, Nintendo and Game Freak clearly don't, and I think it's obvious. People seem to have already forgotten that Game Freak announced Beast of Reincarnation, a third-person action RPG that's coming out next year, and that game looks gorgeous. The creature designs, the art direction, the atmosphere, it all looks leagues ahead of what they've been doing with Pokemon for years, so it's not that that studio lacks talent, it's just that the resources aren't there, and the passion isn't either. I think what we're seeing right now is rot on two ends. On one side, you have Nintendo and the Pokemon Company that are deliberately funneling resources away from the games, maximizing profit, minimizing effort, keeping investors fat while their product is withering. On the other side, Game Freak, they just look exhausted. Whether it's burnout, low budgets, or 30 years of making the exact same game with a different name, they're done. And I think it shows. Every texture, every animation, every half-hearted mechanic just radiates with, we don't have the money to do it, and honestly, we don't care. At this point, I think it's really hard for me to call this creative failure because it just feels like policy, a calculated decision to do less, spend less, and give less because the brand alone is going to sell it. Pokemon isn't a game anymore. It's a machine that exists just to move merchandise, to sell cards, to sell plushies under the illusion of a new adventure every few years. And the worst part is they know exactly what they're doing. They know that the name alone guarantees profit, at least for now, and they know that critics will be drowned out by nostalgia or they're just going to get bought into it just the same. They know that the lowest effort imaginable is still just going to generate billions. This goes to show just how little you can trust these companies and how little they think of you and your support of them. You know, playing the game even just for a few minutes, you can quickly realize just how little care is in there for the quality of the experience or the value of the experience and what it's delivering to you. And that's because these guys feel untouchable. You're just a wallet to be drained to them. And I think this is just what happens when a company goes largely unopposed and uncriticized. And for them, you know, whether it's their legal team or their defenders, these guys are very, very well insulated. You know, for the 2 years now that I've been on YouTube, I have avoided talking about this franchise like the plague, partially because of how much it meant to me as a kid. Watching it decline over the years really isn't something that I want to dwell on all that much, but also because of how terminal the most extreme corners of the Nintendo and Pokemon fandom are. These guys do not want to listen to what you have to say. They are going to just shove it off in a corner as quickly as they possibly can. And you mix the two of these groups together and you're likely to have somebody try to bludgeon you to death with a Vaporeon body pillow. That actually sounds far more disgusting than what I would have thought. Look, I can understand how you're having fun with the game. I really can. Turn your brain off, and it's really not that bad of an experience. But thinking about it critically for even just a minute, and the entire thing just folds upon itself. And you quickly see just how much the customer is being taken advantage of, how they're being exploited. And when you have a company that makes this much money, when you have a franchise that makes this money and has been around as long as them, it's just disgusting. It's perverse in a way that I don't think anything else in the industry emulates. Call of Duty, maybe? That's terrible company to be in. You know, I can't talk about how this game is going to fail because it's obviously not going to. They're going to make a ton of money off of it. And for the people that like Pokemon or love Pokemon, it's serviceable, it's fun, they're going to enjoy it. And even I fell into that trap for a couple of minutes. I sat back for a while, I was like, well, you know, actually, this really isn't all that bad. And then I was like, this is $70! Baldur's Gate 3 was $60. Elden Ring was $60. Black Myth Wukong was $60. Expedition 33 was $50. No matter which way you cut it, this game is a ripoff. And they're going to pay for it. I don't even think half of the complaints around this game would even exist if it wasn't $70 or $100 if you want to count the day one DLC, the same DLC that paywalls the end game and even some of the monster evolutions. That part still blows my mind. Announcing a paid DLC before the game even launches is bad enough, but locking evolution, the literal mechanic and thematic identity of Pokemon behind a paywall, that is another level of greed, and it's the kind of decision that tells you everything you need to know about how limitless this company's appetite has become. And for a game that doesn't even deserve to be $70 in the first place, that's insulting. Explain to me how a game that looks and plays worse than most indie titles from the past decade somehow is worthy of a premium price. You could buy 5 of the best indie games released in the last 2 years and it still wouldn't cost you as much as this one does. The math doesn't lie here. You are paying a premium AAA price for an experience that wouldn't even pass as early access in most cases. I mean, look at Digimon Time Stranger for an example, a game that launched just before Legends Z-A and frankly puts the game to shame. I've been playing it for weeks, and while I don't even think that the game even fully earns a $70 price tag either, at least that game has a debate to be had. Its narrative, music, world design, and voice acting, minus the weird decision to not voice the main character. I don't understand why people do this, but it all feels deliberate and well-crafted. The monster-raising mechanics go really deep. The quality of life features feel modern. You can actually feel like the team cared. Now, I'll admit that the combat in Time Stranger isn't perfect. That old-school, fully turn-based style is just kind of turning into auto-battler territory now. 90% of it is just grinding, but it's still engaging enough to keep you playing, and more importantly, it feels like a finished game, and I feel like that's the difference here. When you look at Time Stranger, you can at least argue the value, but when you look at Pokémon Legends Z-A, there is no argument. It's not even close. This whole thing just feels like a luxury tax on loyalty. That's what it is. It's a penalty for caring too much, for enjoying something a little bit too much, for all the flack that they threw at Palworld, the lawsuits, the patent drama, the media hit pieces. God, those guys really did not like that game. But at least that game, in almost every way, feels like a much stronger experience. And it cost $30. $30. You were free in that game. You could explore massive areas, mechanics that went way beyond creature collection and combat, seamless co-op and multi-platform support, the kind of features Nintendo should have been delivering years ago. Say what you will about Palworld, but at least that game respected your time and your money. Meanwhile, Nintendo has been getting away with just selling your childhood back to you for decades at full price. And honestly, the most frustrating part is that Pokemon isn't even unique in this. It's just the most obvious example of what's been happening to every major franchise. Most of these guys started the same way, small, passionate, and honest about what they wanted to be. But the longer that we stayed loyal to them, the more they have taken from us. They first cut content and sold it back to us as DLC. Then they started shipping broken games and monetizing those fixes with microtransactions. And came the price hikes, the deluxe editions, the battle passes. And through all of it, the focus quietly shifted away from making something fun or interesting into just extracting as much value from the customer as possible. You can see this going on everywhere right now. Call of Duty hasn't had an original idea in years. Halo lost its identity with its studio. Dragon Age is probably dead by now. Mass Effect's probably going to go along with it. Assassin's Creed has turned into historical tourism with a battle pass and social messaging. Ubisoft's entire catalog just feels like a corporate template that's just been copy and pasted all over the place. And it's not just games, it's the whole entertainment industry. Every single movie, TV show, or whatever else is just a remake or reboot. Every comic universe has been force-fed into the ground, and none of this stuff is being made for us anymore. These companies are not thinking about creativity or fatigue or how these people are supposed to be paying for all of this. These guys are just so well insulated that they can't even see the inevitable collapse that's coming, because while nostalgia might keep some of these older audiences buying in for a while, it's just not sustainable. Younger generations do not have that same emotional attachment. The warning signs have been flashing for nearly a decade, but none of these guys at the top seem to care. Back in 2017, right after the release of Sun and Moon, Nintendo said at their financial briefing that Pokemon fans were older than ever. Most of their sales were coming from players in their 20s and 30s. Fast forward 8 years later, Gem Partners surveyed Japanese audiences and found that the average Pokemon player is now 32. 32 for a series that is supposed to be aimed at 5 and 12-year-olds. That number should terrify them, because when your audience stops being replaced by new players, the clock starts ticking. How do none of these guys realize how quickly they are running out of time? You could only live off nostalgia for so long before it turns into a mausoleum. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately, not just with Nintendo, but with a lot of these massive entrenched publishers and how they're operating, and a lot of other businesses, because actually it's starting to make me think I want to talk about other things outside of gaming at some point, because this problem is not unique to games. It's everywhere right now. There is this generation of executives and boardroom lifers that seem obsessed with maximizing profits right now, with zero concern to what it does to their industry, to their employees, or their customers. They're just draining value out of everything they touch, giving us less, charging us more, and pretending like it's innovation. I look at what's happening with AI right now, and I think it's complicated. I'm a supporter of it. I think that most of the outrage around AI is just social media virtue signaling. Hating AI is just a trendy stance to take right now, while most of these people are probably using it themselves. You can see people also online saying it's never going to get better. It'll never do this better than a human. It'll never replace that, as if that argument hasn't been recycled for every major technological leap in history. But damn, man, it feels like every single company on Earth is overcommitting way too early. They're firing staff, gutting departments, tanking the quality of their products in some cases, all for short-term savings from a technology that is still in its infancy. And that's not AI being the problem. It's the people that are using it and why they are. It's the obsession with cost-cutting, the blindness to the long-term impact, the complete disregard for the human side of this equation. They're not thinking about how these decisions are going to ripple out, that fewer jobs mean fewer customers, and that the faster that they automate, the faster they strangle the very market that they depend on by outpacing the demand of their customers. These are people who, frankly, won't even be around to see the damage that they're causing. They're going to cash out. They're going to retire. They're going to leave behind this hollowed out landscape where nothing's going to grow. It's just greed without direction, a final sprint towards an end that they're never going to have to live with. And that just makes this so pathetic and disgusting to me. Look, this is not some anti-capitalism speech. It's just bad business in my eyes. You can't keep gutting out the soul of your franchises and your products and expect people to stick around forever. In the short term, players are going to adapt. They're going to move on. They're going to find other studios to support. But in the long term, these companies are going to be left with absolutely nothing. No goodwill, no audience, no talent left to build the future. Just emptied out brands and burned out employees. 32 years old. That is not a good number, my friends. Not for a company and not for a franchise that requires both its TV show and its games to continue to push the rest of its merchandise. That's the reason why Pokemon has been so powerful as a brand and why they made so much money and why it's been so big for so many years. And it's because it's this monster of industry. It's this carousel of content that just keeps feeding right back into itself. But if one of those gears stops spinning, frozen in time, well, then the entire thing starts to break down and it all stops working. And I think that's probably what's going to end up happening to Pokemon if they don't get themselves back on track and start actually making products of good quality, making games of good quality, because you're basically ruining your entire onboarding system. And it's been that way for a long time for these guys, since 2017 or probably even before that. I find it hilarious that Nintendo came out with Mario Kart World saying that game was $80 because of variable pricing and that they were going to be pricing these games based off of the cost to make them and the experience that they deliver to the player. So tell me, where is that variable pricing in a game that only cost you $20 million or less than $20 million to make, and it treats the players like it's Attack on Titan, shoving them behind the wall of Maria? It just goes to prove it's all a lie. I'm so sick of this. This is the whole reason I make videos like this. The whole reason why I talk about a lot of these issues is because none of the things that these companies are saying is real. And somebody has to be out there calling them out on their bullshit, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're just blatantly lying to people. They keep trying to feed you slop and treat it like it's filet mignon. And every single time one of these games come out, and when they cut out content or when the game doesn't work or when the game fails, they have this long list of excuses. And none of it's true. It's all just corporate parcel tongue meant to gaslight you into believing like they actually care when they very clearly do not. You know, I've seen people trying to make videos essentially trying to send a message to the fans, trying to talk about the constant back and forth between the people that are criticizing the game and the people that are defending the game. And my best advice to that kind of stuff is just don't even do it. It's just not worth it, because in a lot of cases, people do not want somebody else to tell them how to spend their money or that a decision that they made or a purchase that they made was a bad one. Because at the end of the day, we all do the exact same thing. I'm included in this conversation. We all make purchases against our best interests. We all buy things that just make absolutely no sense and from companies that we should definitely not be supporting because we just want something. And sometimes when you want something, that's just going to be enough. And there are enough people, at least 32 and up, that really want Pokemon, and they're going to keep buying it. So the only thing that you can do is just put your opinion out there and hope somebody listens to it. That's what I do. I think that for Pokemon, it's only a matter of time. You can only keep doing this for so long, and they've been doing it for a while now, and it's only been getting worse, and they're not alone in it, and I think it's not going to be good. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. Usually I try to post my videos Tuesdays and Fridays. There's been some stuff going on in the background lately. It's made it a little bit difficult for that. So I'll clear some of that stuff up pretty soon here, hopefully. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Family, 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 family.